All right, good afternoon, good people. It is 4:40, Thursday evening or Thursday afternoon, and so we're doing the God Greater Than World class, and this class's topic is going to be about who is right. Okay, it's going to be about who is right. Um, and so this is an important talk we're doing today because, there's a reality of there is a right and wrong in this world. And just what you believe is right doesn't make it right. And so we're going to get into that today and talk about the reality of that and how the word really outlines that for us and how he really fixes the issue of morality and just like guiding us and showing us what's right. Like he shows us what's right and who is right. And we have the hardest time in our lives when we are in altercation, seeing clearly who is right and who is wrong. But it's actually very simple, and we're going to get into that today. Um, Without further ado, we'll get into it. Give me 1 second. All right, so here we are in God Greater Than the World. We're actually almost done with this class. We're probably going to end it maybe on the 27th lesson, will be the last lesson, and then we'll move on to a new class at this time on Thursdays, as I'm excited to do. It's a first of class being fully wrapped up. And so here we are at the end of Judges, okay? We're at the end of Judges. So Judges 17:6, it says, in those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes, okay? So in those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. But we have to understand that this is the issue in life. This is literally the issue in life, is that people having no overall unifying guiding force in their life and everyone doing what is right in their own eyes. That's how you end up having wars. That's how you have people get killed. That's how you have people get raped. That's how you have people stealing. That's how you have people doing different things because they do what's right in their own eyes. But what we have to understand in this world is that not everybody even some people think that there's common sense morality, but no, morality is what you have heard and been taught in your life. And everybody gets taught differently life. But the reality is, this is why it says in those days there was no king in Israel, but every man did what's right in his own eyes. We need a king. Which is why Jesus Christ was sent to us. We need a king. We need the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We need a king. When every man does what is right in his own eyes, how everybody ends up bumping heads and everybody ends up being chaotic, and you got altercation and disputes and anger and all the other things that happen. But when there's a unifying force above, everything can be at peace. And so we're going to get into this today and just talk about the reality of what this means. So first, we're going to go to Jesus, okay? Jesus right here in Mark 6:34 says, when Jesus went ashore, he saw a large crowd and he felt compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And so we're in Judges, and he's literally saying at this point in time that every man did what was right in their own eyes, and there was no king over them. But you understand, this is the exact same thing that Jesus was witnessing right now. He said he sees a large crowd, and he felt compassion for them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. They had no king. They had nobody to unify them. They had no one to guide them. And he began to teach them many things. Jesus came into the world and had compassion on us because he said, you guys are lost. Every man is doing what feels right in their own eyes, and look at your world. It's falling apart. There are people starving. There's wars everywhere. There's all this murder and stealing and just all these evils in the world because everyone's doing what's right in their own lives. You need a shepherd. He had compassion for that. And so today we're going to talk about just what the greatest shepherd of all time is teaching us. What is his guiding force in us? How is he teaching us to be unified? How is he teaching us what is right to do? How is he teaching us when we have altercations with our brothers and sisters, who is right and who is wrong? Because everybody seems to do what is right in their own eyes. Everybody does. But that's why we need a shepherd. That's why we need a king. That's why we need a someone to guide us. Because I don't think we understand that when everyone is deciding to do what's right in their own eyes, we are literally deciding to be blind sheep that wander into death traps, wander and get lost. We fall right into the hands of wolves and get ate. we need a shepherd, and we do need a king, and we need someone to teach us about life. And so that's where Jesus Christ comes to the picture, right? He comes and saves the day in our lives. He comes to teach us life. He comes so that we may have life and have it more abundantly, right? And so here comes Jesus, right? He has compassion on us. Let's read a little bit more about what's come from Jesus, right? So 2 Corinthians 3:12-17 says, therefore, having such a hope, we use great boldness in our speech and are not like Moses, who used to put a veil over his face. So the sons of Israel would not look intently at the end of what was fading away, but look intently at the end of what was fading away. But their minds were hardened. For until this very day, at the readings of the old covenant, the same veil remains unlifted because it is removed in Christ. But to this day, whenever Moses is read, a veil lies over their heart. But whenever a person turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. Now the Lord is a spirit, and where the spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And so they're talking about this veil that naturally every man has over their hearts. Literally, every person is blind. And without Jesus Christ, without the Lord, without the Spirit, you cannot see life clearly. If you can't read Moses clearly, Moses gave the law. Moses gave instruction to life. But if you can't see that clearly, you can't see life clearly. And so you understand that only Christ can lift that veil in your life. Only Christ can free you. It says that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. You understand, when you see clearly is when you find freedom in your life. But that's why this lesson today is very important. Seeing clearly about who is right in altercation. Seeing clearly about what is right to do. Seeing clearly means everything in your life. If you can't see clearly the truth, you don't see anything. And so here we are too in Proverbs, right? So we just got done in Judges, and he's talking about everyone did what was right to themselves. But that's the reality. Even if there is no human king, even if there is no human guideline, the Lord is always weighing the hearts. Every man's way is right in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the hearts. You can go your own way and do what you believe is right. You can do that all you want to, but at the end of the day, the Lord weighs the hearts. And guess what? He says he sends distress on men. You know what? That's my next slide. I ain't got to even go there. It says this. Zephaniah 1:17 says, I will bring distress on men so they will walk like the blind because they have sinned against the Lord. And their blood will be poured out like dust and their flesh like dung. And so him literally saying, so here we go. We're going back to Judges real quick. So he said in those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did what was right in his own eyes. Well, understand this. There was no physical king, but the Lord was still Lord, and he weighed the hearts. And so this is why it's important that you can do what's right in your own way. You can do what you believe is right in your own eyes. But guess what? There is still a force. There's weighing your heart. And when he weighs your heart, what does he say he does? He says, I will bring distress on men. He will send distress on your heart. When he has weighed your heart and you've done what's right in your own eyes, but it's wrong in his eyes, he will send distress on men so they will walk like the blind because they have sinned against the Lord. And their blood will be poured out like dust and their flesh like dung. And so if you really want to know the truth, you can know clearly who was right and wrong in God's eyes. Because the person who's right by God receives peace. The one who's wrong by God receives distress. His judgment is continual and it's right now. And so this is why it's so important that God's righteousness matters. If you care about how you feel inside, then God's righteousness matters for real. Who he thinks is right and what he believes is right actually matters. If you care about how it feels to live in your own body and wake up every day, it matters. And so I want you to understand this too, is that, obviously the wages of sin are death. Well, he's also saying the wages of sin is distress. You have to understand that death and distress go hand in hand. When you sign yourself up for death, you sign yourself up for distress. But I got another example for you, because then that brings me to this perfect lady, right? Not this perfect lady, but this lady gave us the perfect example, right? Eve, so who literally did what was right in her own eyes. And what did it lead to? Death. Death. When the woman saw the tree was good for food, it was good in her sight. And that it was delight to the eyes, it was the delight to her sight. And that the tree was desirable to make one wise. She took from its fruit and ate. And she gave also to her husband with her, and he ate. She did what was right in her own eyes. But guess what? The Lord weighs the heart. She thought this was completely right. It looked good. It was good for food. It was delight to her eyes. It was desirable to make one wise. It was right in her own eyes. But no matter what we don't understand is that God's judgment matters. For this, they were cursed to death. And so we have to understand that God's judgment matters. You can do what's right in your own eyes all you want to, but guess what? If you're not deciding to live by the righteousness of God, you're deciding not to have peace. You're deciding not to have joy. You're deciding not to have love. You're deciding not to have faith. The effects of life, the fruits of the Spirit. You're deciding not to have gentleness, self-control, goodness, and all these things in your life. You can do what's right in your eyes, but what's right in your eyes doesn't make it right. Doesn't make it right truthfully. God's truth and what he believes is right is what's right, and that's the truth. So then Jeremiah 4:22 says, "For my people are foolish. They know me not. They are stupid children and have no understanding. And they are shrewd to do evil, but to do good they do not know." He literally says that he says a lot, first of all. He says we're foolish. He says that we don't know him, that we're stupid children and have no understanding. And we are shrewd to do evil. We play and plot. We're conniving to do evil, but we don't even know how to do good. To do good they do not know. That means he literally saying the knowledge of flesh doesn't even have the knowledge to do good. You can't even think of a thought to do good. So you have to understand, when you do what's right in your own eyes, it's automatically going to be wrong. You don't even know what good is. But to do good they do not know. Romans 7:18 says, "For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is, in my flesh. For the willing is present in me, but the doing of good is not." Your flesh, nothing good dwells in your flesh. Nothing good dwells in your flesh. Do you understand that yet? All your flesh knows how to do is die. It does not know life. All flesh is guaranteed to do is be born and die. But the Spirit of God knows life. And so you can do what's right in your own eyes, but guess what? It leads to death. It leads to death. Because there's nothing good in our flesh. That's just the truth. It's literally the truth. No matter what you want to think, you can think of a thought right now, and you're probably thinking of it out of spite of what I said. John 14:24 says, "He who does not love me does not keep my words. And the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father's who sent me." Okay. And so let's understand something about Jesus Christ. Is that the word he gave us, the word he walked by, was the word that his Father gave him. Jesus Christ, when he came down here, he did not do what was right in his own eyes. He did what was right in his Father's eyes. He didn't tell the words that he thought were right. He told his Father's words, because they're right. Some of us don't understand why Jesus was so humble. And why he was so great. He was so great because he removed himself and just believed in his Father. He was humble because he did remove himself for his Father. Jesus Christ did not even do what was just right in his own eyes. He did what was right in his Father's eyes. He said, I can only do what I see my Father doing. John 15:12-15 says, this is my commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you slaves, for the slave does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. And so the reason I'm putting this up here is he's letting you know this is my commandment, that you love one another. It's so black and white in this Bible. It's said 1,000 times. It says in 1 John, the one command from the very beginning was to love one another. Jesus Christ says over and over again, this is my command, that you love each other. He says that I don't desire sacrifice, but I desire compassion. He tells them a parable, and they say, he says, who was the neighbor of the one that was beaten? And they said, the one that gave mercy. He says, you go and do the same. Over and over and over again, he's telling you the answer is love. Over and over and over, he's telling you my commandment, what it means to do right by God, what it means to do right of who is right, is the one that loves. You don't believe it? Let's keep going. Romans 13:10 says, love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. Love is the fulfillment of the law. There is no other fulfillment of the law of God but love. So sometimes you want to know who is right and who is wrong. Well, I ask you a question. Who is choosing love? That is the man who's going to have peace. That is the woman who's going to have joy. That is the person who is right before God. Because love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. Love really fulfills every last thing of what it says and what not to do by God. Love does never transgresses. But then some of y'all hear love, like, well, we love this, love that. Well, no, we're not talking about your toxic love. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about true love. Not your man-made idea of love. He said you know not good. Man can't even understand what good love is. So we're about to lean on God to help us understand what it means to love. Because the person that loves is right. The person that loves does no wrong. You want to ask yourself in your argument, in your situation, who's right? Who does God believe is right? It's the person who's loving. I got 2 slides and we out of here. Actually, I got 3. I lied to you. So 3 slides, we out of here. Then it says, Colossians 3:14 says, beyond all these things, put on love, which is the perfect bond of unity. It's just to understand something. Some of us want to change the world so bad, but we're not willing to love. You want to go out somewhere and you want to hold a sign and condemn somebody for something. You want to go out somewhere and do all these things, but you don't want to actually love in your life. Love is the perfect bond of unity. Love is the perfect bond of unity. But the reality is that some people think they've been participating in love, but they haven't. You've never even seen love in your life. You don't know what love is. So let me tell you what love is, because some of y'all really hear love and you say, this is perfect bond of you. Well, no, love has torn me apart. No, because you haven't truly loved. Nor has it been given back as it should in a relationship. 1 Corinthians 13:4-7 says, love is patient, love is kind, and is not jealous. Love does not brag and is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly, it does not seek its own, is not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. This is love. This is love. If it's not this, it's not love. And that's why you've been wrong your whole life. Because you've never chosen true love. Love is patient. Love is kind and is not jealous. Love does not brag and is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek its own. It's not selfish. It's not provoked. It's not irritable. Does not take into account a wrong suffered. It keeps no record of wrongdoing. Does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoice with the truth. It doesn't rejoice with darkness, but rejoices with light. Come on. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. This is love. I don't think y'all understand that if every person gave themselves to love correctly, this would be heaven. It's the perfect bond of unity. If two people decide to love each other in this way, there is no pain, there is no failed love, there is no breaking apart. Read these words and understand, how can if me and someone else are being patient with each other, if me and someone else are being kind, if me and someone else are choosing not to be jealous, if me and someone else are choosing not to brag, if me and someone else are choosing not to be arrogant, if me and someone else are choosing not to act unbecomingly or be rude, if me and someone else are deciding not to be selfish, if me and someone else are deciding not to become irritable with each other, if me and someone else are deciding not to take into account a wrong suffered, if me and someone else are deciding to not rejoice in unrighteousness but rejoice with the truth, if me and someone else decide to bear all things with each other, believe all things from each other, hope all things for our relationship, and endure all things together, that's a perfect bond of unity. It's the perfect bond of unity. And you have to understand that choosing love is the only way that there is peace. So some of you guys are in altercations and you want to know who is right and who is wrong. It's the man that chooses love, and not fake love, true love. Mark 9:50 says, salt is good, but if the salt becomes unsalty, with what will you make it salty again? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another. You have to understand that we are called to be at peace with each other. But in order to be at peace with someone else, you can't be selfish. It can't be about you. It has to be about preserving the peace of those around you that you're touching. That's the only way that you all stay salt. And so you have to understand that so many times we're like, who's right and who is wrong? Well, who is trying to find peace with each other? Who is choosing love? That is the man who's going to have peace. That is the man who is right before God, and that is the one. That's the one who's right. And so that's the end of today's lesson. Hope you got something good from it. Just learn about who is right and who is wrong, and the reality of God's judgment, and that his judgment is true in this life. And whether you go your own way or not, your heart is still being weighed by him. And that's just the truth. And so text your prayer request at 317-891-4148. We'd love to go to prayer and love to go to battle for you. You can text with a scripture. You can text with a testimony. You can text with anything you want to text us about. If you want to journey and read together, text us and say that. Let's do it. Text your prayer request at 317-891-4148. Can't wait to hear from you. And then lastly, our tithe and offering program, we encourage you to save 10% because you are the body of Christ, a walking testimony, his good news. We encourage you to save 10% to support your ministry in this life. We also encourage you to give 10%. We know that he calls his disciples to let go of money, let go of physical possessions, and it's by your giving that they're able to keep their focus on Christ and give you a true message from God. So go ahead and do that if you have the opportunity. And then lastly, we do give back. So what we do is we pull $50 a week from the Cash App to ensure that God's word will continue through our ministry. The rest of the acquired money will be divided equally and redistributed to those that gave. We'll be the first to bless you. And so that Cash App is # Christ King Way. Can't wait for you to be a part of that program. So family, I just want you to remember today that, you can do what is right in your own eyes, but your heart is still in his scale. It's wisest to do what's right by the good shepherd's eyes. And so that's the end of today's talk. Hope you got something good. I'll be back on here at 9 a.m. Sunday morning for our Sunday sermon. Have a great rest of your day.